Hello and welcome to Blockchain Gaming World with me, John Jordan. So in this video, I'm having my regular kind of monthly update of what's going on in terms of the most popular blockchain games in terms of kind of daily active unique wallets. So that's kind of what we use. The equivalent of daily active users in free-to-play mobile games, as much as we have it in blockchain games, is daily active unique wallets. So this is looking at how many wallets, which are just bits of kind of code that can interact with blockchains. How many of those have interacted with these games? So the games being kind of dApps running on the blockchain, and they're basically a whole bunch of smart contracts, which are just bits of code running on there. And as soon as a wallet interacts with a smart contract, normally by passing some tokens through it, we kind of see there's an interaction. So this is what we're measuring. Data is from DAppRadar, one of the dApp data providers. So it's all obviously these are all open public blockchains. So that's what's going on here. So we are this is for April 2020, I guess, but here we're seeing January to April 2020, so the first 4 months of the year 2020. Vertical scale is this daily active unique wallet, so basically a measure of how popular these games are. We can't really say these are unique users because people may own multiple wallets, so just be aware of that. What we kind of see here, and we'll look at a kind of a longer term trend later on, but what we've had really for most of or the first 3 months of 2020 is we've had three games. So in blue we have EOS Dynasty, in red we have Prospectors, and in yellow we have My Crypto Heroes. They've basically been around the same sort of usage, the same sort of popularity. It's been a bit of up and down, but basically they've been quite close. Certainly in March they were quite close. What happened in April, as we can see, is we have this kind of transition, bifurcation, whatever you want to call it, and we have EOS Dynasty kind of taking the #1 spot. And it's always kind of had the #1 spot, but we can see this definite kind of move where it's now running over 4,000 daily active unique wallets, and this kind of weird one up here. I don't know what's going on there. And we can see actually the other ones. So My Crypto Heroes is kind of declining, and actually has this weird decline. We'll talk about that a little bit. And also Prospectors is kind of so Prospectors, it has a little 2 behind it because we're actually combining the versions of the game running on the EOS blockchain and the Wax blockchain. So again, we could have some kind of doubling up, I suppose. But the Wax version launched in December, so we had a big peak in December, and it's been kind of like finding a level of these two games. So so that's what's happened in terms of the kind of the most popular kind of games, and I should say this is just on the blockchains that DAppRadar supports. So this is mainly, or in this case, these games are just running on EOS, Ethereum, and Tron, which are the main blockchains. We have some other games down here. So in green we have Brave Frontier Heroes. So this is a game running on Ethereum, as My Crypto Heroes is also runs on Ethereum. And in fact, Brave Frontier Heroes is using the same tech as My Crypto Heroes, kind of co-developed really. So that's sitting there. It launched at the end of January. It's been pretty steady, about kind of 1,500-ish daily active unique wallets. In orange here we have Upland, which is a game running on it's a mobile game running on the EOS blockchain, and it's kind of like a Monopoly game, like sort of like a real world version of Monopoly. It's not location based, but that kind of launched. You can see that it's always had a bit of traffic, but it kind of launched formally, I suppose, in March, and it's kind of doing okay, kind of up and down as these games tend to do. It's a game, where at the moment you go in San Francisco and it's kind of maps. In fact, you use something like Google Maps, and you can see the kind of real world maps, and you can buy buildings and you earn rent on them, and it's kind of gamified. And then finally, in this kind of a lighter blue, Blockchain Cuties, just celebrating 2 years now of being a live game. The 4 next to that is actually that game runs across 4 different blockchains. So again, I've added those up. And it runs across Ethereum, Tron, EOS, and Neo, which is this Chinese blockchain. Not particularly well used. And the majority of Blockchain Cuties audience is on Ethereum, and a reasonable portion is on Tron, and there's very little on Neo or EOS. But that's kind of the breakdown we see. So we can see generally there's not a lot of movement. we're not kind of seeing parabolic kind of growth in general. Actually, what we see is these games build up audience and then it kind of seems to drift away a little bit. But let's have a look at another graph which shows a bit more long term. So in this graph, the same colours, but this is a 30-day trailing average. So on the previous graph, every one of these dots was a day. So this is the raw data from every day. In this data, I've done a line really because every data point is the average of the previous 30 days. So you get a much smoother curve. You still get these kind of weird kind of changes of direction, kind of gradient, because you get these kind of weird day spikes in some of the traffic. But it just helps us see what's going on more broadly. So we can see EOS Dynasty is kind of it's kind of gone on this kind of like not really an S curve, is it? Maybe it's got a squashed S curve, but it's kind of going into this very strong growth phase. So EOS Dynasty is a pretty interesting game. I have to admit, it's a game I've not played. So I've played all these other games. Not played EOS Dynasty partly because it is it's pretty hard to get actually. So it's a mobile game, but as sometimes happens with Chinese developers, you can just download the APK. So you're downloading the raw Android file, which obviously comes with certain security issues. So I haven't got around to doing it yet, and also there's kind of issues with EOS at the moment being congested and kind of quite what the wallet support is. I don't know. So I've not actually played it, but we can see it's definitely taking off. The vast majority, if not the whole audience of that game, will be Chinese. So it's a very different demographic, I think. So that there's probably different sort of levers they can pull on this. And the other thing, as a lot of EOS games are, it's very much based around in-game currency. So it has its own tokens, and it can kind of drive usage through what it does with these tokens. And obviously, people can cash these tokens out for cash. So it's a different sort of game from a lot of the other ones. Actually, Prospectors again running on EOS has this kind of similar thing where you can actually cash out if you get enough of these tokens. Although it's quite hard to do, I found. We can see there that game's kind of in a not really a decline, but it had its big peak when it launched, and it's kind of finding its value. So it's around about 3,000 daily active unique wallets. That's the same scale on the vertical axis there. And My Crypto Heroes has been for a long time the most popular game on Ethereum. And it kind of goes up and down a little bit. I kind of do wonder if there's been some cannibalization from Brave Frontier Heroes, which kind of will appeal to the same audience. These are both very Japanese focused games from a Japanese developer. And I don't think this will be affecting this, but also they've just announced, the developer of My Crypto Heroes have just announced there's a new game coming up called My Crypto Saga. So potentially this, when that game comes out, I don't think it's coming out anytime very soon, but this product is clearly now in its kind of elder years, and something else is coming out. So you would expect to see some movement, I suppose. I've added some other ones in the bottom down here. So we have 0x Universe, a well-known game running on Ethereum. Tends to be quite heavily influenced by the gas price. So the gas price is actually quite high at the moment. So we're seeing this, but Ethereum games tend to have having a bit of a drop, because Ethereum, if the gas price is high, then its transactions cost more. So people tend to go, I'll do it tomorrow. We have Crypto Sword and Magic down here, which is a game, really nice game actually, running on the on the EOS blockchain, kind of like an idler sort of game. And then Crypto Dozer, which again is running on Ethereum, and that's going through a big update at the moment. It's quite kind of gambling sort of focus, and kind of a casual gambling sort of game really, and they're trying to raise some money, and they're going to try and do something different there. So pretty nicely put together in terms of the games side of it. So we wait to see if that can kind of pull it up. So, but in general, the game that is doing well in 2020 for blockchain at the moment, at least for these three blockchains that we kind of track, is EOS Dynasty, which is kind of well up. You can see it starts the year at about 3,000, and looks like well over 4,500 daily active unique wallets. So that's what's going on at the moment. Please do subscribe to the channel if you want to keep up to date with what's going on in the world of blockchain games. But thanks for watching this video, and hope to see you again soon.